Welcome to another edition of Lakeville City Council Wrap-Up. During this program, we will highlight the agenda items presented to the Lakeville City Council at their March 20th, 2017 meeting. First highlighted item on the agenda is item number 5A, Fire Department Annual Report. And to provide the background information on this agenda item is Fire Chief Mike Meyer.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. I'd like to present the Lakeville Fire Department 2016 Annual Report. And I'll start with our mission statement. The Lakeville Fire Department is dedicated to serving the community through the protection of lives and property by providing public safety education and professional emergency response. Starting with fire prevention visits, so in 2016 we had 164 plus hours of station tours, fire prevention visits, 1,216 plus hours of public event visits. And those are Night to Unite, ECFE picnic, those are the events that count for that. Fire extinguisher training, we did over 900 sixth graders at all three middle schools. So we trained them last springtime. Went through every middle school and trained all the kids on fire extinguishers and how to use them. Excuse me. Fire Prevention Month, so in October, which ran for us from September 19th to October 26th, we did 38 presentations at schools and daycares. Obviously a number of firefighters volunteered their time to make that happen. And the bottom right picture is our city winner for the fire poster contest. So this was out of Lake Marion Elementary. I'm going to mispronounce her name. Jocelyn Grossman was her name. So she got obviously a trophy to take home, and then she was entered into the state contest, state fire chiefs contest for the fire poster, but we did not place with the poster for that. Also in October, we held our open house at Station 4, and you can see the number of different demonstrations that we did. The sprinkler, live fire sprinkler, the safety trailer, the auto extrication. We did not do a vehicle fire demo this past year due to the high winds that we had. And then also we worked on fire extinguisher training for those that were there. And then we had a number of other displays from 911 dispatcher, Centerpoint, Dakota Electric, and also from the PD for car seat installations. Fire prevention for 2016, we did roughly 88 stovetop fire units were installed between Queen Anne Courts and the Oaks in Lakeville. Those were the donations were made possible through Lakeville Fire Relief Association and the Lakeville Public Safety Foundation. So we got over 106 roughly of the stovetop fire stops that were donated and placed in those units. Incidents that occurred, major incidents that occurred in 2016, and I'll start up at the top left. In April on the 26th, we had a abandoned house fire on Kenwood Trail, and this was where they put the road through for 172nd Street off Kenwood. On the bottom, May 8th, the Flagstaff 160th, we had a vehicle accident that involved extrication. You can see the crews there working on 2 vehicles that were involved. May 31st on Hazelwood Trail was a bedroom fire. One of the things that I was just talking earlier about was Close Your Door campaign. If you see that left picture with the door in there, the fire was contained strictly into the bedroom because that door was closed. So that saved the rest of the house. There was still smoke damage in the house, but the fire did not extend beyond the bedroom. July 13th at the Oaks, we had a vehicle fire that turned it into 3 vehicles. On September 20th, we had a trailer home fire on 177th Street, which was a total loss. And then September 25th, a garage fire on 172nd Street, which was caused from cooking in the garage. Fourth quarter calls, you can see 2016 we were up 341 calls compared to 2015. Previous reports you heard that call increases from our duty crew as far as running duty crew Monday through Friday. Looking at a 10-year comparison for total incidents, you can see our jump in calls, 1,347 calls in 2016. Again, I've got a slide that'll touch on that increase with the duty crew. Looking at response times, these are an average for all calls that we respond to in Lakeville. 86% of the calls were there 10 minutes or less, so we've got it broken out in 5 minutes or less, 6 to 10, and then over 10 minutes there. And duty crew, just to touch a little bit on that, we've completed our first full year of the duty crew program. It's a 2 shifts, so they work 9 to 1, 1 to 5, or the firefighter can work all day if they're available. It's a 2-person crew. In 2016, they responded to 529 calls, and I put a chart there to see the breakout of what the call types are that they are responding to. Obviously, 64% of those calls are medicals. When they're not responding to calls, they are doing other tasks as far as pre-plans, truck checks, and other tasks are assigned, or they're helping out at fire prevention visits. Overall breakdown of call types as far as the department that we responded to, so medical assist, medicals that we respond to are 38%. Good intent and false alarms are the other two main drivers of call types. Looking at our department as a whole as far as experience, our years of service for makeup, so 65% of our department is 10 years or less. Then the rest of it, there you can see 20% at 10 to 15, and it gets smaller as we go further up. Speaking of new people, so in 2016 in August, we started a new rookie class that you see there for Station 1, 2, and 4. They will complete all of their training on this Saturday with their final state certification test for hazmat ops. So they've completed their medical training, Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2 state certification. And a rookie class going out, so class of 2014, we had them here in front of council in October that we did their swearing in ceremony. And we had one retirement in 2016. Kevin Needham was a captain out of Station 4, started with the department in 1995. With 21 years, he is also a full-time firefighter at Coke Refinery. In April of last year, we held our annual banquet at Brackett's. The far left picture, John Clancy was nominated or awarded our Firefighter of the Year. And then on the far right, Chris Fletcher was the Rookie of the Year. And you can see our attendance below. We still have a very good turnout as far as active members and retirees that attend the banquet. In May, we held our 6th annual blood drive where we collected 58 units of blood. The firefighters volunteered about 33 hours to make that event happen. And they also volunteered some of their blood, as you can see in the pictures there, that they're also donating blood to. In June, we took delivery of 2 new engines that replaced 2 existing engines. So Engine 1 was in service for 21 years roughly, and Engine 2 was in service for 23 years. The one thing to note about building a fire truck or an engine, it's about a year-long process to make that happen. And the truck committee puts in an awful lot of hours to make to do visits and go through the planning process and building the truck. In July, we held a waffle breakfast at Station 1. We set a record with 217 plates sold or served. And then later that evening, we participated in the Panaprog Parade. Some of the things we do in and around the community as a fire department, starting at the top left, we had a truck and a crew over at Hope Kids event, which is a 5K run at Branchant Farms. The middle picture, we have a crew that we always get invited to the Miracle Field when the kids are playing ball there, so it's always a great event for us to go to. The far right top picture is we always go to Relay for Life at Kenwood Trail Middle School and help them kick off their Relay for Life there. The bottom left picture, we have 2 stations that always go out and ring bells for Salvation Army at Fleet Farm and Cub Foods. And then the Shop with a Hero, this was our first year with a partnership with the police department in participating with that. A few of the other things that we do, we have a fitness-inspired training, and this is all driven by the firefighters or their spouses that they have an event that they want to share that with the department. So some of the things that we did is Station 3 participated in a virtual 5K run. So they signed up online, and there's a whole bunch of other people that do the same thing, and they have to run a 5K run. We had 3 firefighters do the Fight for Air climb at US Bank in Minneapolis. And then a number of us ran a 6K run for water. And then the right side of the pictures are there for Lakeville Public Safety Foundation, so some of the events that we participate there. The Lights and Sirens Glow Run, the Fire on Ice Golf event, which I'll mention that is where the majority of the funds came to sponsor for the stovetop fire stops. And then the Fields for Fire out at Minnesota Paintball. That concludes my annual report. Thank you for your dedication and support to the fire department, and I'll stand for any questions.
Next highlighted item on the agenda is item number 7, Caribou Coffee and Einstein Brothers Bagels. And to provide the background information on this agenda item is Community and Economic Development Director Dave Olson.
Evening, Mayor, members of the council. Mr. Olsted stole a little bit of my thunder. I did stand before this council in 2004 with the first phase of the Argonne Village Shopping Center, and he glossed over some of the challenges that were encountered by the developer and the city when this development started. And those of you who were around then remember what this area used to look like. It was made up of kind of a hodgepodge of 2 to 5 acre residential lots on well and septic systems, some of which were failing pretty badly by the time the development occurred here. Mr. Olsted and United Properties and their development team were very persistent in assembling. It took a period of several years to assemble all the properties out here. And then we got into talking about what the road improvements should be, and we had a lot of cooperation on the part of the developer, and County Road 50 as it exists, including the signal at Culvers and the next signal at Kenrick, wouldn't have happened without the cooperation and the assistance of the developer. So it's a good thing to stand up here tonight and talk about the last piece that is being developed. And as you can see, it's kind of like the missing tooth in the and that's this end of the shopping center. It's the center lot between Advance Auto Parts and National Tire and Battery, with the Remax building to the rear. The zoning, that entire Hoppy property, as well as the rest of Argonne Village, was developed as a planned unit development. Because of the fact that there's cross-access parking and driveways, and typical of a neighborhood shopping center type development. The site plan was, and we spent some time talking about this with United Properties and their development team. The main issue was to ensure that we felt that there would be both adequate parking and adequate circulation of the site. We feel the final design does that. Typical with a shopping center, there's joint shared parking arrangements out there, and in this case, a coffee and bagel shop will probably have different peak demand times than, for example, Advance Auto or the Remax office, or even further a little bit to the north and west, Culver's restaurant. So we think this use will function very well. It will complement the other uses that are out there. The two planning actions before you tonight are a conditional use permit because of the drive-through, and the design that they've come up with has the car stacking basically almost in the entire perimeter of the building. Our ordinance requires stacking for 180 feet for vehicle storage, and it'd be dedicated for just that purpose, and the circulation and the layout for that works very well. The other one of the issues that we worked with them, and the developer was cooperative in making some changes, was there's a dumpster enclosure. That dumpster enclosure will now have a roof on it and will face opposite of the two-story office building behind this, so it won't be visible and cause any sort of unpleasant sight lines, I guess, from that office building. The parking issue, we spent some review, and I think this process, our ordinance talks about fast food. It doesn't really distinguish between coffee bagel shops versus a Culver's or a McDonald's, and so I think, and there's some reference in the memo, and I won't go into it in detail, but we had Dan Lick kind of do some analysis and what was typical, and quite honestly, Caribou and knows what they need to make a store be successful. They're not going to short themselves on parking because it's not good for business. We, on the other hand, don't want to require parking that isn't needed and isn't going to be used. So we try and find that happy medium, and I think we felt we did on this project, and will probably result in some changes to our ordinances going forward. This graphic shows, and the other reason for the PUD, and Mr. Olsted was right, it's kind of a challenge when you're just looking at this one lot as a standalone. What we did, and it didn't quite have enough green space under the city zoning ordinance, but when you look at it in context with the rest of the commercial uses and the Hoppy Marketplace portion of this development, they exceed the green space requirements, and so that's one of the types of things that PUD gives us the flexibility to look at. as opposed to just the letter of the ordinance as it pertains to that one particular lot. And then here is the exterior of the building. Again, it meets the city's requirements for exterior materials, as well as signage and lighting, and based on that, staff's recommendation was for approval of the project as proposed. Planning Commission held their hearing on March 2nd and unanimously recommended approval. There were no citizens or public that showed up at the public hearing, so it was a very short public hearing. We've attached the conditional use permit and the finding of facts in the PUD ordinance, and with that, staff recommendation as well as Planning Commission is for approval.
Item number 7 was approved by the Lakeville City Council. Next highlighted item on the agenda was item number 8, resolution declaring costs and setting assessment hearing for improvement project 17-02. And to begin a series of presentations, here's Public Works Director Chris Petrie.
I am going to start it, Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
and introduce one of our guests that we have here, but I wanted to just preface this by saying tonight, as you've already mentioned, we're going to be asking the council to approve a resolution setting an assessment hearing for this particular project. This is our 2017 street reconstruction project. We have Ms. Monica Heil here from WSB and Associates, and Ms. Heil will walk us through the project once again very briefly and provide results of the recently opened bids. So with that, Ms.
Sounds
Heil.
good. Welcome, Ms. Heil. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good to see you, members of the council. And so tonight we are discussing the 2017 street reconstruction project. And as you recall, the street reconstruction project is generally located south of 160th Street, east of Kenrick Avenue, north of 175th Street, and the easterly border of the project kind of meanders through some of the streets that you see there highlighted in red. But it is approximately 8.5 miles of streets that we are proposing to reconstruct, which is very similar in scope to both the 2015 and the 2016 project when we look at the length of the streets. When we look at the improvements, there are some slight variations as to what we've seen in the past couple of years' projects. As we look back at the project background, we began with a neighborhood meeting inviting all those property owners located within that 8.5 miles of streets to a neighborhood meeting to discuss the project and gather feedback. That was held back in June of 2016. Following that meeting, we spoke with the City Council at its July 5th meeting and received authorization to complete the feasibility report. That feasibility report was presented to the Council on October 17th. At that time, the City Council set the public hearing date, which was held on November 21st. After that public hearing, the project was officially ordered and final design for the project began. Project was advertised for bids. We opened the bids on March 3rd and have computed the assessments and the final project costs. The project scope includes water main improvements, but only in a very small area. This year, we are proposing to replace that water main located along 167th Street between Kenrick Avenue and 166th Street due to the ongoing maintenance issues. We do have very recent break histories in that area. The soil type was found to be corrosive, as it was in other areas of the project, but this is the only area in which we've experienced a number of breaks in recent history, and so that water main will be replaced as a part of this project. Other than that, the water system improvements will be very similar to what we did in 2016, which was install corrosion protection. As you know, the soils within this portion of the city are considered to be detrimental to iron water main pipe, which is what exists in this project area. However, we have not had any extensive break histories or other maintenance issues in this project area. Water main in this area varies between 30 and 40 years old, and so we are proposing to install corrosion protection which will extend the useful life of the existing pipe until such time as the water main needs to be replaced and the streets completely reconstructed. This was done in 2016 with much success. We are also going to replace valves and other water main system components that may need repair at this time. For the streets, we are planning to reconstruct them. That includes the reclamation of the pavement surface and spot curb and gutter replacement throughout the project area. That means we will be replacing those concrete curb and gutter panels that are either structurally deficient or are holding water through the flow line of the curb. And in any other areas, well, there'll be some grade changes to further improve drainage along the street. Storm sewer enhancements will be installed as a part of this project, similar to what was done in 2016. That will include the repair and replacement of any deficient structures, as well as some additional structures in areas where we have local drainage issues. The feasibility report estimated the total project costs at just over $10.9 million. After we completed the final design of the project and realized there was going to be less extensive curb and storm sewer replacement needs as a part of the project, we revised our estimate and then received extremely competitive bids. That resulted in a nearly 35% reduction in project costs, and we are now finalizing the project costs at $7,104,906. What that translates to is a reduction in each of the funding sources contributing to this project. City funds will fund approximately $3.44 million of the dollars in project costs, which is a 41.8% reduction from the feasibility report. Street and storm sewer assessments associated with the project have also been reduced. They will fund approximately $2.43 million of the project costs, which is a 33% reduction. Water operating funds will cover the costs associated with the water main replacement along 167th Street, as well as the corrosion protection installation, and those costs were reduced by 11.3% from the original feasibility report estimate. And the sanitary sewer operating fund, which will fund the replacement of any sanitary sewer manholes and castings that will be replaced as a part of this project, will be contributing $246,000 to the project costs, which is a 5.7% reduction. When we look at the proposed assessments for the project, they are calculated on a single-family unit basis. That is, every single-family property within the project area has the same assessment rate regardless of street frontage or location. Interior lots pay the same special assessment amount as corner lots. The feasibility report estimated those costs at $4,506.66 based on the very competitive bids that we received. The final assessment amount for each single-family unit within the project area will be $3,008, which is a 33.3% reduction from the feasibility report estimate. Special assessments will be considered at a separate hearing on April 17th of this year. Assessments can be paid without interest by November 15th of 2017, and the assessment period for reconstruction projects is 20 years, with the first payment due with taxes payable in 2018. Moving forward, we are here tonight to declare the costs and also set the special assessment hearing date for April 17th. Following the public hearing for the special assessments, the City Council will have the opportunity to approve the assessments and also consider the award of the construction contract for this project. Should the Council move forward with that, construction would begin immediately, assuming that weather conditions are what they are right now, 1 month from now, and will be completed by October of 2017. The city will certify the assessments to Dakota County in December of 2017, and again, that first assessment payment would be due with taxes payable in 2018. So the next steps for the City Council are to consider a resolution calling for a public hearing on the proposed assessments for City Improvement Project 1702, and with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Item number 8 was approved by the Lakeville City Council. Well, those were the highlighted items presented to the Council at their March 20th, 2017 meeting. If you have any questions or comments regarding these agenda items, please feel free to call City Hall. The number is 952-985-4400. Thanks for watching this edition of Lakeville City Council Wrap-Up.